Well, this is Danny.
And this is Kamga.
And we are interested in getting to know you, our audience. And for those of you who don't know Kamga, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, dear listener. My name is Kamga Chasa, and I'm a writer, content creator. That's a term we would use these days because I do both words, written form, audio, like what you're listening right now, which is what I help with Soul Stories as a producer, and also video. And I am very glad to be able to connect with you on this beautiful day.
You guys hear these incredible professional episodes, and it's because of this magic creating man, Kamga. So, feel free to reach out and he can send you some of the other things that he creates as well. Part of the reason we're doing this little mini episode is because it's a strange experience to work on these episodes for so many hours and days and months. And when we post the episodes, the download count goes up and up, but we don't get to see your faces or know who's even listening. I'm really happy because Kamga has pushed us to create a survey where you, the listener, can tell us about your favorite podcasts, why you listen to podcasts, and what topics you want Soul Stories to cover as we create more and more seasons of this beautiful project. And we would love to connect with you. At the end of the survey, you can check off whether you're interested in a follow-up conversation. And if you are, I will reach out and would love to chat with you more. With all that, Kamga, maybe we should share a little bit more about us.
Yeah, I agree. It's been a project. It feels like it's been 10 years since we were working on the Soul Stories podcast.
I know.
But then I can still remember how we met at the Stained Open mic, and then you were like, hey man, let's have coffee. You didn't even know then that I did any audio work of any kind.
No, I didn't.
Yeah. And then we met, and then you were like, oh, you're working on a Soul Stories podcast. Sorry, actually Soul Stories, and this is what Soul Stories is. And I was like, well, I just moved to the US. I'm pretty bored. I mean, not really. I'm pretty handy. You could use some help. You're like, sure. Would you do it for free? I was like, yeah, sort of.
Yeah.
And then eventually the first season was, I guess it was an experiment for us to see if it actually worked, and it did, because like those listening right now, they really liked it. And then the second season too was something else, and the third season, I feel like it's been a journey. I don't know about you, Danny. How do you feel about the collaboration, how we've come up to this point?
That meeting was really magical for me because like you just have a lot of skills, and it feels like when we create together, it's a really connective experience, you know? It feels like our friendship and our connection directly translates into what we create in each episode. It has felt like a journey. I think it really has only been about a year and a half, but it was a substantial year and a half.
I agree. I think especially because those listening don't see what happens, before the episode is recorded, while it's being produced, the feedback for the production, how we're thinking of marketing. So there are many aspects of the podcast that we don't share on the podcast that I think makes the bulk of everything that happens on the platform. And I think that's pretty cool. Like, it's like the way relationships work. You see people, they're friends, but you don't know the conversations they've had, the fights, the disagreements, and everything else that leads to this beautiful collaboration.
Yeah, there's something about our friendship that there's just like a rawness to it. We're willing to be honest with each other, and I think that comes across.
Yeah,
in
I agree.
What we do.
It's hard to be both professional and vulnerable at the same time. I think it's a very weird combination.
Yeah, it really is. And it is such a reward when we can find that balance,
100%. Yeah.
What keeps you creating the Soul Stories podcast and producing and editing it? What is it about the Soul Stories podcast that aligns with you?
That question, it's a weird image that came to my mind when you asked the question. It's ceramic. I don't know how it's called, this pot making process. Is it, the thing that spins and then you have the hands, clay pot making? How's it called?
Yeah, I don't know. Pottery, ceramics.
Pottery, yes.
Yeah.
Ceramics, pottery.
Yeah.
that image came to my mind because that's how I feel about every episode. It's like you have this substance from the guests, like deep questions and conversations that resonate with me personally. And then my job or my interest in that particular moment is how can I reduce, because I feel like a lot of editing is much more reduction than adding things, especially with the Soul Stories podcast, because it's very much based around conversation. So it's not, sound effects and explosions and ambient music. It's really how can I make the conversation as clear as possible to the person listening. So I sit myself in the chair as a listener and I'm basically telling myself like, oh, this is not necessary. This is necessary. And my editing process, because I never really studied how to edit like in school and look at principles. I have a feel for conversation. I like the flow, the natural flow. So if I feel like I shouldn't edit the or an R because it doesn't make it, smooth, I don't. And what keeps me working on the Soul Stories podcast is the depth of the conversations. And it's an honor to have to listen to these conversations firsthand, because even you don't listen to the conversations until I edit them. Like you're present, you ask the questions and you're in the moment and you interview, but then I get to listen to all of it. And I think that's pretty cool. It's like, it's the best feeling to know that I'm the first person who listened to this version.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I love that about editing in general. And in Soul Stories, based on the conversation that we have, like the deep conversations that like sometimes I edit and I'm like, man, I know somebody who should listen to this. I should send them. And I'm like, but it's not yet finished, so I have to wait.
That's what you get for being the VIP listener.
Exactly. That's how I feel. I feel like a VIP listener.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's a really cool project. And I agree with you. And I hope that this survey project, I hope us reaching out to our audience and getting to know the people listening will help us kind of like dive even deeper, figure out like new avenues to go.
I know it will, because personally, as a writer, most of the time I tend to just put out these words online and it's like, oh, I hope somebody likes it. I think that's what we've done with the Soul Stories podcast so far. We've taken topics and guests and people that we think like, well, we hope people like it. And so far they've liked it. Like if you're listening to this, Claire, you like the Soul Stories podcast. But what if we could go deeper? What if we could actually find out like, okay, how can we serve you best? I think that's the whole goal of this survey is like, okay, let's stop shooting in the blind. Let's figure out what we can do really well for you. And that's what we want to do with the survey.
That's awesome. Yeah, as you said it, I'm just getting so hyped. I'm getting so excited. So if you're listening, the survey link is in the episode description. I'll be posting it on Soul Stories Facebook, Instagram, Patreon, anywhere you find Soul Stories on the website. Make your voices be heard. We're really excited to get to know you.
Yeah. Who knows? Maybe I might call you.
Yeah. You might get a surprise call from Kamga.
Like, hey, this is Kamga from Soul Stories Podcast. Hello.
And it won't even be like a special prize. It'll just be Kamga saying hello.
Just me flexing words with you.
Yeah. Oh, all right. Well, we'll see you soon for season 4 of the Soul Stories podcast.
Yeah, we've got good stuff coming up for you.
Awesome.